What's up, coaster fans? Today I'll be ranking the B&M Floorless coasters in the United States. Since Firebird isn't open yet, I can claim that I've ridden all 10 of them in the country, so I can give you some first-hand knowledge on each one of these. So let's kick this off with my home park's floorless coaster, Scream, at Six Flags Magic Mountain. On paper, the stats are solid with its 7 inversions and the fact that it's a mirror image of Bizzaro at Great Adventure, but there are a few things about this coaster that make me rank it last. It has a dumb name, and it's a total parking lot coaster. They didn't even try to spruce up the footprint to make it seem like less of a parking lot. But more importantly, it has such a bad rattle that it gives you a headache. I can handle the jerky transitions of an Arrow or a Vekoma, but a bad B&M rattle will always leave you reaching for your Advil, and Scream is one of the worst offenders of this, so that's why I have it ranked last. At number 9, we have Rugarou at Cedar Point. When I rode this in 2016, I had a pretty bad rough ride, but my 2018 rides were much better, so I really don't dislike this ride at all. I also think this is a better floorless than it was as a stand-up, plus it has one of the coolest color schemes of all time. Perhaps it would have a better reputation if it wasn't being overshadowed by all the superstar coasters at Cedar Point, but it ranks lower on this list because it kind of has a smaller stature and a smaller layout compared to the other floorlesses in the country, and it really is a forgettable coaster when talking about the coasters at Cedar Point. Another stand-up to floorless conversion is my number 8, Patriot at California's Great America. This was surprisingly intense and was very smooth, but it suffers a similar problem as Rugarou. It was originally one of B&M's first creations as a stand-up coaster called Vortex, and thus it's under 100 feet and it's under 2,000 feet in length. Although it's an enjoyable ride, it doesn't stack up with the bigger, longer, and loopier floorless coasters on this list. My number 7 floorless is Batman the Dark Knight at Six Flags New England. This was another coaster where I had a terrible first ride, but then I came back another time and had a much better experience. This is another floorless on the smaller side, standing 117 feet tall and featuring 5 inversions. It wasn't built to be the greatest coaster ever, but for what it is, it's pretty good. The highlight of this ride for me is those interlocking corkscrews at the end, which also is a great place to get pictures. Batman is a solid supporting coaster in the Six Flags New England lineup. The weirdest floorless coaster lands at number 6, Hydra The Revenge at Dorney Park. Nothing about this coaster is conventional, from the JoJo roll out of the station to the straight drop to the abnormally shaped inversions. This ride gets major points for being weird and breaking away from the stereotypical B&M looper layout, but my last ride in 2018 knocks it down a bit. I rode in the front row, and the second half of the ride had such a bad rattle it scrambled my brain. Usually the front offers a smoother experience, but for whatever reason, it was really awful on that Tuesday night in July, so I had to drop it one spot on this list. The original floorless coaster is my number 5, Bizzaro at Six Flags Great Adventure. Despite having the same layout as Scream, it ranks 5 spots higher thanks to its smoothness, setting, and theming. I really liked its color scheme when it was Medusa, back prior to the 2009 season, but at least now it has a unique name so we old school coaster enthusiasts don't have to say Medusa West or Medusa East anymore. There's nothing special about the layout, but the setting and the field plus the interactive theming in the second half of the ride, especially around the corkscrews, puts this right in the middle of this list. The only relocated floorless coaster is my number 4, Dominator at King's Dominion. I first got to ride this as Batman Night Flight at Six Flags Worlds of Adventure, and then as Dominator in 2008 and 2018. You want a unique layout? This is it. It's huge, and it features a monster 135-foot tall loop before banking behind the Cobra Roll, up and over the station, and into the Cobra Roll before hitting the mid-course brakes. The second half is a spaghetti bowl track featuring interlocking corkscrews. Of the coasters on this list, the top 4 are the only ones that I really enjoy riding, and Dominator is one of them. At number 3, we have a real legend, Superman Krypton coaster at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. A lot of people would call this their number 1 floorless, and I can definitely see why. It uses the quarry wall to perfection. The first drop dives off it and even has a little helix element after the loop that is specifically there so you can hop on and off the quarry wall. Even the mid-course brakes are right against that wall before you enter the interlocking corkscrew finale. My only complaint about this is that it will rattle your brain. I had a rain ride that was pretty smooth, but in general, it's hard for me to get off this without a headache. So it gets major points for its unique layout and setting, but it isn't higher than number 3 because of that B&M rattle. My number 2 floorless coaster was my very first floorless, Medusa at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. I was so excited to ride this back in 2001, and it did not disappoint. It took me 17 years to get back to Discovering Kingdom to see if it still held up over time, and it absolutely does. It has that great straight drop, and it still rides pretty smoothly after all these years. It also has that unique sea serpent roll, and has a good intense second half. I would love to trade this for Scream and have this at my home park. And finally, the champion of the US Floorless coasters is Kraken at SeaWorld Orlando. Like Medusa, it has that great first straight drop and a very smooth layout, but it features a cobra roll rather than the sea serpent. What crowns Kraken as the best is that second half. Off the brake run, you dive into a trench and into a second vertical loop, and then into a tunnel before emerging to get thrown into the final corkscrew before hitting the brakes. Medusa and Kraken are one spot apart on my top 50, so it's very close, but Kraken's second half is so well done that I have to put it at number 1. One more interesting note, my top 4 floorless coasters were all built in 2000, and 3 of them were built by Six Flags, so it was definitely a different time back then. Let me know what you think of my list in the comments below, and also let me know your top 10 or what you think should have been number 1. Also be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all next time.